Okay, now continuing on with the rest of the characters here, or at least with the middle tier, the mid-tier portion of it. Now that we've established sort of where Dr. Mario falls in terms of his matchups against what most people would consider the top and the high tier characters of this game. We move into the upper mid-range section, starting here with the Ice Climbers, and this is admittedly a matchup that I don't have very much experience on, especially with, generally me being someone who sticks to playing, stays to playing sort of on unranked and doing, kind of their own thing. I don't have a whole ton of experience against ice climbers personally, but generally I would put them around the 55-45 range for a couple of reasons, but yeah, this one's again maybe one that some people may see differently. Some people maybe put it 50-50, some maybe agree, but generally I have it around here at 55-45. So the thing about ice climbers is as far as projectiles, their ice shot compared to generally a lot of the other characters here that have projectiles compared to, for example, Fox's lasers, Falco's lasers, and maybe Peach's turnips. When we really look at Ice Climber's ice shot as a projectile, it's not really as threatening to Dr. Mario as a lot of the other projectiles. And generally, whenever you are playing Doc and you're playing against these projectiles, you're gonna want to focus on, whenever you are able to, tanking the projectile and maybe rushing in, or potentially deflecting it using your cape, or even just jumping over the projectile, or ducking under it. But more so in the case of ice climbers, you really don't have to worry that much about ice block in general, as far as actual damage and on stage control. Mostly you can sort of not pay too much attention to it or too much mind to it outside of edge guarding scenarios, because it is usually not as strong of a tool as the other projectiles listed. It has obviously it has potential to rack up damage and to edge guard, but it's not in the same position as, say, Peach's turnip, where Peach is able to actually jump out there, float over to you, and then throw the turnip to edge guard you. She can throw it up, she can throw it down, she can choose to hold on to it, she can choose to Z drop it. Icies don't really have that option. Instead, they just have to rely on they have to rely more so on getting the angle on it correct when they do decide to pop it out in order to edge guard. They don't really have because they don't have a variable control over where the ice shot is going to get put necessarily. They just have to get in the position that they're trying to get into to shoot the ice shot, and then hope that it manages to make contact. And again, because you only are able to launch it downwards, it makes it so that recovering high as Doc is also a lot safer than, say, against Peach, who can throw the turnip up and potentially snipe out your recovery attempt, or float up to you, or double jump up to you and then slap you out of the air, or throw a turnip at you while you're trying to recover. Say, if you're trying to side B stall, if you're trying to gain height off of down B, or if you let out an early up B, for example. And that's not to say that ice climbers can't do that, because they can go up in the air against you. They can try to challenge you with, nair or back air, but generally they're going to have a harder time than doing so against Peach, especially because their recovery isn't as good as Peach, and they're also generally a bit lighter. So if they do get punished off of it, they get punished a bit harder. And I mean, in terms of the damage aspect, if we look at Ice Shot in comparison to like Fox and Falco's lasers, they just don't have the utility. Ice Shot is slower. It doesn't rack up percent that quickly. Sure, you can send out two and you can use it for desyncs, but again, that's mostly used for creating space in Ice Climber's cases or forcing Dr. Mario to be in a position where he has to jump or duck underneath them. But again, you have your own pill projectile. You can pretty easily stuff out Ice Block, and if you really want to, you can also just reflect it back with Cape. But it's really not as effective as, say, a Fox laser for racking a percent, or even a Falco laser, which is a little slower but has the utility of having hit stun on it and being able to launch out faster. So while they do have the desync, Ice Shot isn't necessarily that big of an issue for you as an obstacle, as a projectile obstacle specifically. As far as the onstage fight is concerned, generally the thing with Ices is that they're going to try to they're going to try to push you to the edge so that they can get those desyncs off, so that they're able to combo you, so that they're able to get handoffs, and so that they're able to touch of death you. Doc, while Doc is susceptible to this, as pretty much every other character in the game is, if they don't manage to separate the Ice Climbers, I find that Doc usually has a pretty good time with separating them, or at least getting them in a position to where they can't exactly get the desyncs that they want. Because obviously you have the pill, which I mean is very good against just racking up damage. If you don't hit one climber, then you can try to snipe out the other with it, or you can just use it to apply pressure, force positioning, force them to jump over, or force them to throw out some kind of attack to pop it out. Um, and you know, that's not to say that it's free to separate them, but obviously when if you have a tool to help with that, then it's going to become a lot easier than with other characters. Like this is like, and this is part of why I think that, you know, this matchup, or well, that's why I think most matchups for Dr. Mario are better for him than for Mario, especially in the floaty cases, is because Pill has a much better damage output, and the angle on it is overall a lot better, which makes it a lot more useful for positioning, and especially in the case of the Ice Climbers, much better for separating them. And obviously you have your throws, forward throw and back throw. Forward throw is very quick. Back throw sends out especially far. Makes them pretty good for separating them. And obviously with the edge guarding thing, you know, Ice Climbers together, they have a pretty good recovery as far as, you know, height and the fact that they have a lasting hitbox. But you know, if they're side being, obviously you can cape them, you can jump out to cape them. If they have to up B, you can hold ledge and try to get one of the climbers to shoot past the ledge. Mostly you want to try to get rid of that Nana. You want to try to edge guard Nana. You want to try to kill her as early as possible to defeat the possibilities of, you know, getting desynced or getting grabbed. And obviously that's not going to be always extremely easy to do. But if you are able to pull it off, this matchup becomes a lot easier. And that kind of goes for every character against Ice Climbers. But generally I find that Dr. Mario does have a bit of an easier time um, with doing so, because the pill obviously able to stuff out their approaches, able to force positioning. As far as and you know, as far as other moves are concerned, you have back air, which does a very good job at separating the climbers. If you know one of them gets caught, back air has pretty good knockback. It has that sort of semi spike angle. And obviously when you're edge guarding them, it's going to be pretty effective as well, because you know you have that, if you're sending them out away from each other, or if you're sending them towards the blast zone, one of them is going to get separated from the other more easily. And You know, you also have other options. You also have your cape. You also have down smash, which again are pretty useful overall, but they're also not as, maybe not as reliable a lot of the time in some situations as say pill, because obviously you can't throw them out as fast, and they may require a bit more, uh they may require a bit more commitment overall, because obviously you could get punished for them. uh but yeah, generally I'd say that this matchup is mostly about you trying to separate the climbers, which again you have pretty good tools to. So you have your back air, you have your cape if you have them off stage, you have pill to force positioning, um, you know, force one climber to, especially like if you have them in the air where you mostly have to force Nana to attack. She's not really, well, not force her to attack, but she can't make herself defend while she's in the air, obviously. So it puts her in a much better position for you to hit her, to swat her away, because she's not going to be able to shield. And mostly, you know, whenever it comes to ICs, obviously, a big part of it is also going to be unfamiliarity in some cases, because they're not super popular, and that's also why I'm not exactly the best at talking about this matchup in particular. But yeah, I'd say mostly Dr. Mario has pretty decent tools for separating them, and obviously they're not exactly the heaviest characters, so it's going to be um pretty easy to kill them. Maybe not easy, but it's going to be a lot easier than say a character like Falcon, or even a character like Mars, who is sort of in that middleweight range, and not entirely floaty, also not entirely a fast faller. Um, as far as you know, the rougher aspects of it, I guess, you know, ice climbers again can exploit Dr. Mario's recovery, and if they get the handoffs, then yeah, they can just touch of death you, which kind of goes for any character, but it can also be pretty difficult for Dr. Mario to deal with, since you know he is pretty slow in general, movement speed and aerial speed wise. But you know, whenever you're playing against them, you also do have to take the fight to the air a lot of times. You know, full hop down air can help stuff them out if you're above them, utilizing the platforms a lot. You know, throwing pills from above. Again, just making them come to you, making them jump towards you, so that you're not on the ground and they're not able to grab you, and then swatting Nana out of the air. And obviously once you get rid of Nana, dealing with Popo becomes a whole lot easier. And obviously it's possible that the Popo can um can make the comeback if uh if they're able to get the opportunity to do so. But it's just going to be a lot more difficult generally if they don't have the Nana with access to them, because then the edge guarding game becomes a lot easier. um you know, they don't have as much kill power. Ice shot becomes less effective. And yeah, I mean, this one is, you know, kind of a weird matchup. It's in that range where, you know, some people might say 50-50. Some people might say something else. Some people might say, you know, maybe 45-55, 55-45, maybe 60-40 in Doc's favor. This one I think comes down a lot to preference. But yeah, generally this is how I feel about the matchup. Uh, so yeah, summary. Um, Dr. Mario does pretty good at separating the climbers. Doesn't have a whole lot of trouble with you know, with being able to kill them, and can force them to sort of play you know, not necessarily his game, but to force them to jump up, to go in the air towards Doc with those, with that pill positioning, and also with you know, using your multi hits and your stronger attacks to separate the climbers and your throws. And then obviously with the bat stuff, ICs, you know, pretty slippery character. That's also something I didn't mention. They're pretty slippery. They can slide around, so it can be a bit difficult to catch them. Obviously with their wave dash, and they have the the handoff combo. So that can also make it a bit tricky to deal with them. But generally, I'd say this matchup is pretty decent for Dr. Mario overall. So I have it at 55-45. Next, we have Pikachu, which I also think is 55-45. I think this one. I think this one is, again, this one I'm not too well versed on, but I have played a couple of Pikachu's quite a few times, and generally I find this matchup to actually be pretty good for Dr. Mario. Generally, as far as my experience goes, uh, obviously at the top level, it's going to be uh, very different, but generally, but at the level that I'm at, and probably around like the lower midish level, the thing with this matchup is obviously there's the whole kind of joke about Pikachu being a bit of a I guess you could say a budget fox when it comes to this game. Maybe, and I don't know how big that consensus still is, but there's obviously the fact that Pikachu, very fast character, uh, can usually, does a lot of vertical combos, especially to kill. The up air, very similar to Fox's Shine. So in a lot of ways, you also play this matchup a bit like how you play against Fox, but I'd say this matchup is a whole lot easier, like to the point where I think Dr. Mario wins slightly. So first, there's obviously the weight issue. Pikachu, very light character, generally pretty small character, falls relatively fast. So you're able to get a few combo setups off him. You can do some down throw stuff. I think you can do like down throw, back air, down throw, up air. Most of the most similar down throw combos that you can do against some other characters within that lightweight range. Um, Yeah, another big part of it also is the range thing. Pikachu being such a small character, obviously it can be a bit hard to hit him. For some of the bigger characters, especially like, uh, like perhaps like Captain Falcon, who is so much bigger. But in the case of Doc, you're a much similar size to Pikachu. You're a bit low to the ground yourself, and the good thing that comes with that is that you yourself are kind of a similar size to Pikachu, but you also have more range overall. It's a lot easier for you to get in. You can overshoot more, or at least more effectively than against some other characters, where if you're trading your Nair with Fox's Nair, it's usually not going to turn out so good for you, because one, Fox is just going to take the trade, and is most likely going to capitalize off of it better because of his range, his speed, and his combo ability. Pikachu doesn't necessarily have that so much, to where Fox has it. He gets sent. He's lighter, so he gets sent further out. He's a bit stubbier, so he's gonna have to work harder to actually get in, and he's gonna be a little bit slower. So if you go trade for trade with him, like on neutral there, then you'll be better off generally than if you were to do so against, say, Fox. And obviously you have the option to do like overshoots with forward air, which again, just kind of a bit of a Hail Mary. It's not necessarily the most viable option to go for, but it is definitely an option that you have, especially because Pikachu has, it's such a small body. It's also going to deplete a shield. You can maybe get a shield poke if you really force him. If you really force him to put up shield. But yeah, that weight and the range issue makes it really easy for Dr. Mario to kind of space Pikachu out. And obviously there's the fact that you have pills, you have your cape to send back Thunder Jolts. You can force Pikachu to take a lot of damage. And he can have a bit of trouble getting in against you. Obviously, with how fast he is and how little he is, it's definitely possible for him to get in. But he's also, he's also a bit of a weak character as far as damage is concerned. You know, you can do like 10 hits or of a Pikachu up here and do maybe 30% from it, which is really crazy, really, when you think about it. But yeah, damage wise, he's a pretty weak character. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Um, you know, he has trouble with ranging you out. You can overshoot more effectively against him. You can go trade for trade more comfortably against him. And obviously you have the kill power to your advantage, which makes it easier to kill him off of smash attacks, off of your forward air, off of your throw combos, and just stacking on damage. And I mean, you also have the you also have you know, the option to edge guard Pikachu if you're able to read where they zip around, but honestly, it's not very easy to do. So that edge guarding is, I'd say, where Pikachu does have the advantage. You know, if he gets you in the air, he can juggle you with up air. If he gets you off stage, he can edge guard you much easier than you're able to edge guard him. Again, he's pretty fast, so it can be a bit difficult to catch. And yeah, it's a bit difficult to edge guard him solely based off of you know, his recovery being so good and him being so small. It can be a bit unpredictable trying to figure out where he's going to go. But yeah, I'd say generally, because of how, you know, how little damage output he has against, you know, Doc, who is kind of in that middleweight range. You know, he can be surprisingly difficult to kill at times. You know, you have the kill power on your side, you have the range, you have the ability to stuff out some of his approach options. You know, I'd say this matchup overall is pretty good for Dr. Mario, at least in my experience. So that's why I have it 55-45. And then after Pikachu, we have Yoshi. And quite frankly, I had no idea where to put him when I was deciding on each of these ranks. So admittedly, I am going to put him, I was considering putting him between any of these three tiers in the middle. Ultimately, I decided on putting him in 50-50. So there's a few things about Yoshi that make him a bit of a weird matchup, you know, besides the obvious ones. You know, with parry, with double jump armor. So as far as Dr. Mario strengths in the matchup, obviously with the parry, the double jump armor stuff, multi-hit moves known to work pretty good against Yoshi. You know, you see examples of it, such as with Fox's drill. You can not necessarily do something to similar effect with Dr. Mario's down there, but you can at least be able to tack on damage. You know, obviously at higher percents, that armor is going to break. Forward air also breaks armor pretty easily if you're able to catch him, if you're able to catch the Yoshi in the air. Obviously your smash attacks are going to do a lot of damage. They're going to help break armor. Pills are able to tack on damage. And funnily enough, for some reason, well, there's the reason, it's because of the set knockback, but Yoshi's double jump armor actually gets broken out by up B, by Dr. Mario's up B. So a really kind of cheesy thing that you can do is, especially if Yoshi's recovering from below, is you can kind of run off stage or run out to where jump out to where Yoshi's recovering from, and then once he starts to double jump, you can reverse up B him to only get the first hit of up B to force him out of his double jump armor and have to force him to air dodge. So that's a kind of a funny thing that you can do. It's not exactly reliable, because again, you do have to hope that you are actually able to hit the up B against them, and to more specifically get the first part of it, because if you get every hit of it, then you are going to pop them up, and that's not a guaranteed recovery for him if you do manage to do so, but it will make it a little bit easier. Besides that, I mean, Yoshi also does have the egg projectiles that he can toss at you, which again you're able to, similar to the other projectiles, especially kind of similar to Peach's turnips, where you'll see her use them to edge guard you. Um, um, you know, you can do a similar thing with Yoshi, just deflecting them back. You're able to launch him back if he's trying to camp from ledge. You're able to, kind of effectively negate those eggs, throw out pills, uh, you know, overshoot forward air isn't as good with Yoshi, and especially not trading. You especially don't want to trade with Yoshi because he is kind of a scrapper in the sense that he has that armor. He's so tanky. He's such a heavy character that um you're not exactly going to kill him as early as some of the other characters mentioned on here. You are going to struggle a little bit more, but just that's mostly by merit of his weight. If you're able to get him to a high enough percent to where you're able to break his armor, then you are able to make it a lot easier to kill him than, say, a character such as Captain Falcon, who you just have to constantly work over and over again with edge guarding. And that's not to say that it's impossible to edge guard him or anything, because he does have a fairly linear recovery. But in the case of Yoshi, you can like entirely mitigate his recovery if you are able to break through that armor, and if you are able to get him to a high enough percent to where one good hit, like even a neutral air or an up air, will just send them away. And again, you always have the option to do the reverse up B, as I mentioned, but that's also a bit risky to go for, quite frankly, because if you don't hit it, then you're just kind of stuck recovering by yourself in the air. He can punish you if you completely miss or whiff it. And it's not exactly the safest option, but obviously if you know that you can afford to go for it, you can always try to cheese it out with that. But yeah, Yoshi is a bit of a weird character. Again, um, for the bad sides, um, there's obviously the fact that you're not really able to scrap with Yoshi that effectively, because one, he's so heavy, and two, he has the armor and the parry. So if you're trying to run in against him, and you're trying to maybe overshoot nair against him, well, that's not going to do anything for you, because he'll just parry it, and then he'll win out on that exchange. Or he can trade your nair with his nair. He's heavier, he's tankier, his nair is going to beat yours out. So, and that's the thing about Yoshi is, until you have him at a pretty high percent, you mostly just have to be pretty patient with them. You have to keep building it up over and over again. You have to just try to get them out of that double jump armor range, which is a bit easier, with being able to with your ability to utilize those pills to tack on damage. He doesn't have that great of a recovery because of his double jump, and you are able to use your hits to tack on damage, because not a lot of them are going to break that armor right off the start. You're mostly just focused on tacking on damage, so you do mostly have to be pretty patient with fighting him, and you just have to take a step by step. Because if you try to be too aggressive, if you try to run in against him, he can just bulldoze you over if he decides he wants to scrap with you. So you kind of have to play less of a brawler game against them. You have to be a bit patient at times, especially if you're on the back foot. Then you really have to be patient against them. You have to really stay afar and use your pills, because if you try trading with him, then his lead is just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to become even more difficult to make a comeback. Yoshi's already one of the more difficult characters to make a comeback against, just because of how hard it can be to kill him with his weight, and because of how insane his combos can be. Um, so generally, you really do have to you have to focus on getting that lead, getting the stock advantage, getting the percent lead, using your pills to keep him at a distance, and just trying not to catch yourself scrapping with him over and over again, because eventually that lead will just continue growing, and it's going to grow even further the more you try to do so. So you really have to be wary of your distance, tack on percent slowly, and don't rush in too much against him, because he is going to come out on top. He is going to parry you. He's going to use that armor. And again, Yoshi also pretty good on kill power. Can edge guard you pretty well with eggs, or can at least force you to throw out cape if you want to have a chance of deflecting those eggs, which means you're being forced to use out cape. He can jump out there and nair you or up air. If he's forcing you to use cape to deflect the eggs, then he's putting you in the position that he wants. He can just keep throwing eggs at you to force you to use that cape, or he can, throw an egg out and then throw a move out to try to send you further off stage. And I mean, obviously the combo game, he's such a combo heavy and punish heavy character that at any moment you can just die off of a hit. So yeah, I'd say about 50-50 as far as Dr. Mario and Yoshi. Again, his weight, you just have to keep tacking on percent. You have to play a bit slower than against some of the other matchups, like against Pikachu, because you just have to keep tacking on percent. You can't let him get the lead, or else it's going to be very hard to make a comeback against him. And another part of the weight issue is that against Yoshi, you're gonna have a bit of an easier time comboing him because of how heavy he is. Your moves won't send as far, but that does mean that you get some longer follow-ups. But again, yeah, you mostly just have to tack on a lot of percent and try to break through that armor. Again, a forward air is pretty good for that. You can use your down air, those multi-hits. Back air, a higher percent, is really good at edge guarding Yoshi. And obviously you have the reverse up B option, which isn't exactly reliable, but it's at your disposal, so you can use it. So yeah, that's generally how I feel about the Yoshi matchup for Dr. Mario. Now next up after Yoshi, we have Samus. And again, this one was a little difficult for me to decide. I was between 60-40 and 55-45, but ultimately I decided on 55-45. So as far as the strengths against Samus, obviously Samus is an incredibly projectile heavy character. Samus relies a lot on her missiles, her charge shot. She is obviously going to be throwing these out a bunch throughout the match. So you having your cape to your advantage, very useful. You're able to deflect them. You're able to combat them with pill. You're able to snipe out missiles with pill. You're able to, obviously, if you deflect the charge shot and you manage to hit her with it, it's going to be very, very powerful. It's going to do a lot of damage, a lot of knockback. Samus's weight, she's in a bit of a weird spot where she's both pretty floaty, and she's also pretty heavy, which actually makes comboing her fairly easy as far as the floaty characters go. She's a bit of, she can be a bit of combo food at times, off of throws, off of juggling her with aerials, with up air. She's a bit slow, so you're able to mostly outrun her, and that makes it a lot easier for you to get in. Obviously, again, since she relies so much on her projectiles, you have the ability to sort of not necessarily play a run and gun game, but you if you get the lead, you're able to keep your distance a lot more effectively against her, since you have the ability to to neutralize her projectiles. And again, if you are able to get in on her, you are able to combo her fairly easily as far as floaties are concerned, because she's much heavier than Jigglypuff or Peach. So you're able to string up airs more easily with her. Your down air can connect more effectively into nair or back air or up air. You can get better, or you can get more extended throw confirms off her, like with a down throw. And yeah, generally uh easier time getting in, I'd say, than some of the other floaties. Able to mitigate the projectiles, and you're able to combo her pretty effectively. As far as the rougher aspects of the matchup, obviously Samus, that weight can also be good for her. It increases her survivability. Um, it can be a bit harder to kill her than some of the other floaties, just because obviously she's floaty. She's going to usually be sent out a bit further, but also she's a heavier floaty, so she's going to live at higher percents than some of the other ones. So you're just going to have to wait for her to get back down to where you are. If she wants to camp you, especially off to the side of the stage, then there's not really a whole lot that you're able to do. You just kind of have to wait her out. You have to snipe out her bombs, her bomb jump. That's also kind of another part of it. It's the edge guarding aspect. It's going to be very difficult to edgeguard Samus. It's not impossible, obviously. You can drop down to back air her if she's near ledge. You can snipe out her bomb jumps with pills. If you time one correctly, then you're able to pop one of the bombs to force her to just fall down. But if you're not able to get that off, then uh you do just kind of have to wait for her to get back to the stage, because you can't exactly jump out there against her, because again, you don't have the greatest recovery compared to some of the other characters. And I mean, it's not impossible to jump out there against her, but it is going to be a bit difficult to do so safely, much in the same way that it is against Peach, where um you can't really make yourself go out there safely against Peach, because she has her float. She can just sort of smack you away. It's a similar case with Samus. She has those bomb jumps. If you miss, or if she drifts in and out of your range, she can just bomb jump away. She can, if she has her double jump, she can double jump and then hit you towards the blast zone, and then she makes it back safer. So yeah, it can be a bit difficult edge guarding her. You have to play a pretty patient game generally against her, and a lot of it also comes down to getting those reads on where the bomb jumps are going to happen, when she's going to do that. And even if she decides to throw out her charge shot while recovering, just to try to throw you off, or while she's doing it against you while you're recovering, you have to play around that. You have to try to read it, and you have to try to just move around it as much as you're able to, because against Samus, you are going to need as much percent as you're able to get. And you need to conserve that percent, because you need to be able to go in against her. You need to be able to go in safely, and you don't want to take the charge shot to the face for obvious reasons, especially when you have the cape available to you to deflect it. But yeah, and besides the survivability and the edge guarding aspect, Samus also um very tall, very long limbs. She has a good amount of range. She can stuff out uh your hits from afar, or at least further out than a lot of other characters. She has longer limbs. She can poke you out with like forward tilt or up tilt or nair. those are situations where you can't really force a trade with her because she has such long limbs that she's just going to beat you out. And even when she doesn't, it's generally going to be more advantageous for her. But again, if she's in those situations where you're trying to where she's trying to get you in a range where she can hit you, but you can't hit her, you kind of have to fall back on yourself. You have to, retreat a little, throw out a few pills, maybe wait for her to throw out some missiles, and, stuff those out with pills, or try to run in whenever she's airborne to try to get underneath her. So you're able to juggle her and, maybe get a confirm off of it with, maybe a down throw into another aerial, or like up air into forward air. So yeah, you kind of have to play around her range. You have to make sure that she's not within that range where she can hit you and where you can't hit her back. You kind of have to work around when you want to get her in the air so that you're able to get underneath her, when you want to retreat back so that you can, throw out your pills and then force her to throw out those projectiles, which again you are able to reflect, you are able to stuff out with pills. And when you're able to run in against her, maybe whenever she's holding up shield, to apply some pressure, to get some throw follow-ups, and to try to attack on as much percent as possible. So yeah, overall combo game against Samus, pretty good. um you're able to stuff out her projectiles, and she's not exactly the hardest character to kill. She does have pretty good survivability, but again, she's a bit of a floatier character, so a lot of your combos are going to connect a bit better because she's in that floaty heavy range. And again, for the downside, she has a stronger edge guarding game, and she has a much better range overall than you. So really, it's about sort of playing that range. You have to play a lot more patient against Samus than against some of the other characters. And then for the final, I guess, mid tier that you could consider, Luigi, which again, um, with a lot of these mid tiers, I had a bit of a hard time deciding on where to put him. I was really between 50-50, 55-45, but ultimately I decided to do 50-50. I think this one is, again, a really weird matchup overall. So, thing with Luigi is he's just kind of a wild card character. He's he's slippery, he's always going around everywhere. He has that super strange nair which just stays out forever and has a bunch of hit stun. The down smash that pops you up. Obviously, there's some misfire chance. Like, he's just such a wacky character that it's weird to really get a good gauge on what to do against him, especially when you're such a fundamentals based character such as Dr. Mario. Strengths: Luigi is, one of the Mario brothers, so he's kind of in that mid range weight, similar to Doc. So you can get some decent combos off on him. You can tack on some percent. Your pills are a lot better than his fireballs. They do pretty good damage. They can stuff out his wave dashes if you catch them, and his aerial mobility is pretty bad overall. So if you're able to get him in the air, you're forcing him to have much slower movement than if he were on the ground, because he can't rely on that wave dash when he's in the air. So if you're able to get him in the air, and you're able to get in a position where maybe you're underneath him, you're juggling him, or maybe you're behind him, you're able to throw out a back air to swat him away. That's a pretty good position for you to be in. And Luigi isn't exactly the heaviest character either in the game, so you won't have a whole ton of trouble killing him. For the difficult aspects of the matchup, honestly, it just comes down to Luigi being weird. He has a wave dash, which makes him incredibly slippery, incredibly difficult to catch. Um, he just slides around everywhere. Some of his moves, his down smash again pops you up. Your character like Dr. Mario, you're pretty susceptible to combos overall. So if he can get a combo start off of that or one of his throws, then that's gonna be really good for him. And obviously the recovery aspect of it is just very, very weird. He has the ability to get that misfire off, um, which can just instantly put him back on the stage, makes it a lot more difficult for you to edge guard him. And it can be pretty easy to edge guard him sometimes, especially if he doesn't get the misfire. But if he does get it, then it's just going to be a long time trying to get him back off the stage, because you're gonna have to catch him while he's on the ground, or you're going to have to hit him off the stage, which again is going to be, a bit difficult because of how slippery he is and because he's floaty. So, if you get a weaker hit at higher percents, he's just going to fly away slowly, and you have to wait for him to drift back. But yeah, for edge guarding, mostly you want to rely on using your pills. If you really want to, you can decide to jump out, tank a side B to the face, just to force his momentum to stop. You can cape a side B, hope that you get the timing right, in case he doesn't misfire. Yeah, you really just want to try to stuff his aerial drift as much as possible, because if you're able to force him to have to recover from below, then I mean, yeah, his up B is very linear. You can just grab ledge. If he's by the ledge, then you can just back air him off. It's going to be pretty difficult for him to recover. On stage, you really just want to watch out for that wave dash. You want to dash in and out of that range. You want to use the platforms if you're able to. You want to force him to have to rely on his aerial drift at times. Obviously, the pill, pretty good for stuffing out a lot of characters, especially against like Luigi. Like Luigi does have the fireballs, but your pills are going to be more beneficial for you overall. You really just have to play around that wave dash. You can't let him slide in and catch you. You can't let him get straight nair off on you, or a down smash to pop you up, because then he's just going to he's going to pretty easily get a combo off on you. And he does hit decently hard compared to some other characters, so it's not exactly going to be super difficult for him to get kills on you a lot of the time, especially because your recovery is so bad. He can get some kills off the side, similar to how you edge guard him. He can just drop down from ledge and back air. He can forward air you. And also Luigi is slightly bigger than Doc, so he does have slightly more range. It's not a whole lot to where it's super noticeable, like to where you're constantly going to be in situations where he can outrange you and you can't hit him. It's not going to happen as much as, say, like Mars or Sheik or Samus, but it can happen. And if you do play the scrapping game, then you have to be very careful with it, because he has the forward air chop, just able to smack you away. His nair is going to be much more beneficial for him than your nair. You can rack up your percent with your down air into up air follow-ups, with your down throw follow-ups. Yeah, you really just have to chip away at him, do damage over time, use your pill to tack on percent, and try to get him off stage, and do your best to edge guard him, hope that the misfire doesn't come into play. But yeah, Luigi's just a bit of a wacky character. You really have to watch out, especially for that wave dash, because that just makes him incredibly slippery, makes him slide around everywhere, and he can catch you very unpredictably. So yeah, against Luigi, just take advantage of your kill power, of your combo setups that you have because of his floaty weight. And if you are able to get lucky with him not getting the misfires, then you are able to edge guard him fairly easily. But If not, then he can just make it back on stage. And, I mean, yeah, he does have pretty good kill power, so yeah, that's about what I have to say for him.